Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for taking the time to join this session on managing auditing processes with Microsoft 365. My name is Alex Franklin, and I am from Cielo Costa. I'm a senior consultant. And over the next 30 minutes, we're going to be running through some elements associated with managing auditing business processes within Microsoft 365. And this will touch upon the benefits you see as a business, but also the benefits that you see down to the level of the functionality that's available to you and the versatility that's available to you. So not just about the options available for how your data is stored, but the versatility with the solution you have as well, about the ability to tailor it to the needs that you have specifically, while building something that's reusable and reapplicable to different scenarios within your organization, regardless of the industry. And we'll be demonstrating some solutions along the way as well that we at Cielo Costa have built and deployed to our customers. And so just to start with briefly, a very brief introduction to us. We are Cielo Costa. We are a solutions provider who work with companies in a lot of different industries, both in public and private sector. This can include healthcare, or it does include, pardon me, healthcare, construction, professional education, charities, membership organizations, and all sorts. And we work in partnership with our clients to understand their business needs and then build or tailor solutions for those needs to meet and hopefully exceed those needs. And at points as required, we can carry out bespoke development along with associated strategic planning and assistance, such as solution road mapping, migration and change management and user adoption strategies. But moving into the main subject matter here. So what do we mean by auditing in Microsoft 365? And this can mean different things to different people. So to me as a member of my business, what does auditing mean? It can mean health and safety checks. It can mean tracking of licenses. It could be having inventories of equipment that we have and then the auditing of that equipment to make sure that it's still fit for purpose. It can cover all these different areas. But one of the key things I see a lot, and I've seen over the years, is the problem. And the problem that's faced with businesses is the processes they have at the moment and the solutions that they've got to manage them. And we all too often see scenarios where companies are using Excel files, for example. So we have an Excel file to capture the output of an audit or something like that. And those Excel files are stored in lots of different places, in different folders. They're not governed correctly because you can't govern an Excel spreadsheet. So we've got inconsistent data capture, we've got incorrect data capture, we've got incomplete forms. Those forms are coming back in, they're getting stored in all these different places, and it's extremely difficult to be able to get that central visibility of the data and understand what's going on everywhere. And likewise as well, we see places that take it further than that, where they have an Excel file that some people fill out, but some people seem to prefer printing that file. They'll print it, fill it out by hand, and then it's stored in a filing cabinet. So while we as an organization may have met an obligation, we haven't really fulfilled the benefit that we can get from that obligation. And we haven't really met a need that we as a business have to be able to use that data effectively to improve what we're doing and just make sure that everything works as it should. And when you're using Microsoft 365 for auditing within your organization, there are lots of benefits you get, more than I'll probably go through here. But to start with, we have future-proofed information management. So we can design the structure that our data comes in with so that it's something that can be universal across our business, or it can be specific for that need, but it's something that when designed right will continue to benefit us as time goes by, so that we can expand and grow with that in a way that's not going to break anything. It will work in harmony with it, like a piece of Lego coming onto another block. And these solutions are ones that can be picked up and used by anyone. It's a very, very key factor that we focus on when we're building these solutions, is that in this day and age, you shouldn't need a lengthy training program to use an application. People fill out forms on websites all the time, and they fill out other solutions, and they don't need training. They just need something that's clean, concise, and clear, so that they can fill out the data that they want in a way that's also controlled, so it guides them through that process. So if this field equals this, that field must be carried out in a certain way, and you can't save unless this form has been completed in its entirety. All these different things. So the aim we go for with these solutions is that you maybe need a bit of guidance for it. The key to it is understanding why you're doing it and making sure that it's the business process that is trained upon, not the solution, because the solution should be something you can just pick up. And as I mentioned as well, the benefits you have here that you don't have with paper or Excel or access to a certain degree is that you can govern that data capture, making sure that what's put in a field using taxonomy, for example, is consistent across the board so that we don't have inconsistencies and we don't have missed fields, anything like that. All those different things to make sure that our data is of the highest possible quality. As well, there's accessibility, so visibility of everything, everywhere, from a single place. All of the work we're doing gets stored in one central location. So if I'm an organization that has a dozen or more locations across the country or across the world, all that data comes into one place and I can see it and I can do with it as I wish. If I'm a contributor to this system, I can use it on any device, anywhere. We designed so that we can do this on laptops if it's specifically needed for that, but we can take this further so that these applications can be used on tablets and on smartphones. For example, if we're doing a health and safety audit, it may be that we have to walk around the place and check things, add photos, whatever it may be. And so we can have that on a phone, so it makes it easier for the user. With that, we can have it available offline so that we can use offline access in case we have trouble with Wi-Fi in certain areas. But all these things can be designed in a way that they're reusable. So we can take an existing platform and then we can reuse it in the same organization, just with tailoring as necessary for whatever task is at hand, whether it's simply replacing the questions if we've got a simple yes/no approach, or if we need to add different functionality on. The sky's the limit. And with that as well, we start to bring in other Microsoft applications from the 365 stack. So if there are tasks that come out of this, it can create tasks in Planner. There could be notifications sent in Microsoft Teams. There can be all sorts of different things that start to bring in all the other applications that we already have and just increase that return on investment that you have. And with that, increase greater adoption of those tools as well. Because if people start using it as part of this process, then they're going to hopefully want to start using it for other things as well. So it means that all the tools you're paying all this money for get greater use across your organization. So when we're storing this data, the data that comes in, and we'll see some examples in a moment, we have complete choice over how we store this data. We have choice of the format in which it goes. So it could be that we're using a list in SharePoint Online to store it. It could be a SQL database. That database might be in our office. It might be in a private cloud somewhere, or it might be in Microsoft Azure as well. Anything you want, Cosmos, many, many more. There's so many different types of data connection you can use to decide how your data is stored. But also, if we're going down the cloud-based route, you can choose where that data is stored. If you have a particular need that you have, say, an area in China, and you need that data to be stored in China, that's fine. Data can be stored in a number of different locations, but still using the same application. So you can meet every regulatory need you might have. So let's go straight into some demos now. So what I want to show you is two systems, as we've got half an hour here. So I've got two systems I want to show you. And one starts with the lower level, slightly more simple, moving into some of the more complex as we go through. So this is a solution that we built a few months back and deployed to a customer. And the requirement was they needed to manage licenses across the board, across the UK in 50 plus locations. They had Excel files and it wasn't being effectively managed. There was a lot of time needed for people to be able to go and get the information that they need and manage those who have to fill out these forms. And so they needed something simple, something anyone could use with a very small amount of guidance. And so what we created for them was a solution in Microsoft 365 that they access from a site that links from their intranet, as you saw there. And as we go in, you see we've got this RAG status as it goes through all of these elements here. So this follows us around the app. So immediately I'm given access to information. I can see what's coming up, what's overdue, and what's in date. And this all relates to three key elements associated with each location and what they need to do for these licenses. So I can see straight away that there are 5 locations with something coming up. And then in my view here, I've got my immediate information showing me that we've got 2 points here that are coming up soon. So meaning they're going to expire in the next 90 days. And I can browse through, I can go to see what's overdue, what's in date. And this RAG status follows us around everywhere that we go. We have a really simple search function, so I can just start typing to get the location that I need. And when I see my location, I can see that one is okay, one is overdue, so I need to action it, and one is coming up. If I click into the item, we have a very simple form. We're keeping it simple. There's no point overcomplicating things. So when I'm in my form, I can see, again, this RAG status. The form itself is red because something is overdue, but I see what I need to do at a glance when I'm in this form. So I edit, and all I need to do is I've carried out my action to say that something has been done, and I can maybe say that on July or June the 24th, we updated this. Immediately we're green. We can update the rest of our items as well so that they become green too. So if I say that is now 2020 and it was done on the 16th of June, again, we're green. We save down and everything's done. And it's as simple as that. We have a business process associated with this, and we communicate that with the organization so that they are aware that as part of their responsibility in this persona within this solution, they must carry out certain actions behind the scenes. In this case, it was the renewal of licenses. But we've also repurposed this for things like supplier due diligence, organizations who have suppliers and they need to carry out information security due diligence on them every year. We've repurposed this almost like a carbon copy, but renaming fields to match that need. So what was built once is repurposed, reused as a new solution, but much cheaper. And we have additional functions as well that we build into these over time. So a release 2 gave us history, where we gave them the ability to track every single change that was made to this form, so that as time goes by, I can go in and I can see who changed what, when they changed it, and get all of that good information that we need. And as far as information goes, getting information out of this is one of the key things. It's one thing to be a contributor, but we want to get this data, we know why we need this data, and we know what we need to do with it. So we need to surface it in a usable way. And so if I load up here, there's 2 points to this that I want to show you. One is the communication part of this. So we've set up notifications in here so that there are no emails that go out with summaries. The one I'm showing here goes to solution owners. So every week, the solution owners receive an email summary telling them that this is how much there is in total. These are all the items that are going to expire soon, so there's some action needed. So I can get that quick health check view when I come in at 7 o'clock on a Monday morning, perhaps, and get the view of the data that's in there. Likewise, there are daily notifications that are sent. So for every single license owner, they will receive an email if something needs to be done. They won't if there's nothing, of course. We don't want to blitz people, but we can't expect people to have to go into this system to check what they need to do, because there could be lots of systems and it's just not manageable. So we push these notifications out to them, make them aware of what they need to do, but make the powers that be behind the scenes aware as well, so that they can get involved if they want to. So when we've got our data, everything's there, but we now need to report on it. And this is where we use some of the other elements of Microsoft 365. And in this case, it's Power BI. So Power BI, in case you're not familiar with it, it's a separately licensed solution, but it is a very, very powerful one to be able to get access to data anywhere and put it into a dashboard. So I can have my view here and I can have perhaps a simple chart that shows me an ongoing summary on my intranet site page, where I also link through to the associated policies and training. But when I click on Analytics, this will load up Power BI, and this feeds our data in and gives us an up-to-date view in an interactive manner as well. So I've got my summary table of everything in this solution, and we can connect this up to to other layers as well in external systems that might have related data, and build these global dashboards that allow us to interact as well and filter through to see the data how we want to see it. So I select a property in one area, everything changes to focus on that, and we can just jump around, do what we need to do, and it's really simple. And this can then be saved down, shared with anyone in your organization as well. So this sometimes can replace weekly reports. Just have something you present from here to get that bird's eye, but quick, clean and concise view of everything we need, how we want to see it. So this system, as I said, this was a relatively straightforward one. We built this within a couple of weeks and then deployed it And then from there on, we've been adding functions to it as we've gone on. We have other simple things in here, such as linking through to guidance or submitting feedback, which is something we always encourage as well. But also, because this is used from shared machines, we give them the ability to sign out. So that's the one that starts off with a more simple approach. And so I'm going to move on to something slightly more in depth than that as the second part. So if you'll bear with me one moment while I load this up.
Hi, Alex. Sorry to interrupt.
Hello, Hannah.
Hello. We've just had a couple of questions come in on the QA board, if you didn't mind, just while you're loading all that up, giving a couple of answers to those.
Of course, go for it.
Oh, perfect. The first question is just around whether these apps will work on mobiles and tablets as well. And then the second question is just around the security of it. And can this be restricted? And the information everyone can see be restricted? Could it be restricted from individuals and teams rather than the app as a whole?
Yep, absolutely. So the first question has actually given me the good segue into the demo I'm doing here now. So these can be used on any device, anywhere. We can tailor it so that they are responsive, however you need it to be. So the short answer to that is yes. So we have here a mobile device, and this is an app running on that mobile device. So we will tailor for that. And so where companies perhaps have specific devices, or they have a lot of devices, we're very, very particular on testing, and we are very thorough with our testing as well. So we can work with you to make sure that before this goes live, we do test this on those specific devices and confirm they work exactly as is needed. Second question was security. Security can be absolutely anything you want it to be. So I will always recommend looking at security from the point of view of simplicity. Keep it simple and don't unnecessarily overcomplicate it. The foundation rule that I follow really is look at something based on relevance or confidentiality. If it's not relevant to somebody, think twice before you go to the effort of specifically or explicitly restricting it. If it's confidential, absolutely. So we can choose who can or cannot use this app, but we can go further than that and choose who can and cannot, in this example that I'll show you in a moment, carry out audits at particular locations. So it can be as widespread or as granular as you want it to be. And it's something to consider very early on, but the answer is yes. If you need it secured, it can be secured, whether it's visible and locked or not visible at all to certain people. So that leads me nicely into the second demonstration. So where we saw before, we were capturing license renewals. What we're doing now is actual auditing. So we're auditing health and safety in this case. So we have a need where we need to carry out quality reviews across our organization. And this matches the example I mentioned before, where I need to walk around the place and fill out questions as I go. And so I'm just going to move that so it's off the screen. And so what I'm going to be doing is I, as the user of this tool, I am walking around and I'm checking things. And I'm filling out my audit record. I've been notified that an audit is due on areas that I'm responsible for. So I'm going to come down, I'm going to find my area, which is Brighton and Hove, and I select it. I'm then presented with all the areas that are associated with Brighton and Hove. I can use my search if I want to find areas. I can also view historical scores or progress associated with this area at a glance before I go in. I open up. And so I'm carrying out an audit, and I want to add additional auditors here. So there's going to be two of us. We're doing this as a joint effort. So I'll say that it will be me and Ali. And so it now says you and Ali are about to inspect BH1 at Brighton and Hove. I'll also say that it's going to be me and Ali and Emma. So we're all good. We've chosen who's on the team that's going to be doing this, and we begin our audit. So now we've got different categories, and we've broken out, because those audits can have a lot of questions. You don't want to have one massive list of stuff that you've got to go through to answer all the questions. It's like when you have a huge plate of food, it becomes a bit overwhelming. But if you had that same amount of food in bite-sized pieces, it's just that bit much more palatable. And so I come through and I see the sections. I've got a health and safety post. I've got work environment and housekeeping. So I can maybe click on section 3. When I go to section 3, we've got health, hygiene and general well-being. And these are all the questions that I need to answer associated with this. So I can see down here, is there suitable storage provided for all hazardous substances? And is it used efficiently? So that's the one I'm going to answer because that's what I'm doing at the moment. And another thing to bear in mind as well is these can all be saved as draft. So we don't need to worry about filling it out in one fell swoop because that's just not reasonable. I can come in and I can fill out anything I want. I can say, yep, I can say no. If I say no, I must fill out rectification notes. But I can say there is storage provided, but there's still something that needs to be done because the labeling on it has faded over time or become scratched. So we need to replace that labeling. So I can click down here and I can add an action against this task. So I can say replace hazardous labeling in BH1. And I can then say, right, who's going to do this task? I'm going to assign that to Hannah. And whoops, pardon me. And I'm going to set a due date. And I'll set the due date to be the 1st of July. Once that's done, I add my task. Away it goes. And this is where we start to bring in other areas. So the data of where this is stored, I as an end user don't need to know or care because I'll never access the actual data itself. I'll always surface it through this app. But I've just created that task. If I come over to here now, I'm in Microsoft Planner, and you'll see replace hazardous labeling in BH1 is under the Brighton and Hove bucket assigned to Hannah. So we can create all these tasks and we can view all the charts so that at a glance we can see the different locations, how many tasks there are, how many are in progress or late. And so we get that full overview. So it's not just about managing the data, it's about managing the outcomes. And that's another real weakness that Excel and previous methods like that have, is that it's very difficult to effectively manage what needs to be done as an output of this process. Doing it this way automates it. It takes away the need for the human element to remember to do something because it does it for you. And then you're reminded. So when people are assigned tasks, they're notified. When those tasks are approaching, they're notified. When they're overdue, they're notified. But the whole way through, those who want to see it have this view behind the scenes. And with this as well, all the data in this is stored in SharePoint. And so when I'm looking at these questions here, what we've actually done is these are all being populated from a SharePoint list. And this could be anywhere. It doesn't have to be a SharePoint list. A SharePoint list, to be honest, is easy for end users. It's also easier for me to demonstrate as well. And so it means that you have the power to manage the questions in this as well, because as far as possible with these solutions we build, we want user ownership. We want business ownership of them. We don't want you to have to come back to us for every tiny thing you need, because stuff of this size can change frequently. And so you want the management of it. So if I come into first aid, for example, I can see there's 2 questions here. This data comes in from this list. So if I want to add a new question, I can say new, and I can say, are first aid kits fully stocked? And then I can add my category, which is 4.0 first aid. And then we have these sections down here where we can say yes or no. And what they do is they control where this question shows. So if I'm perhaps reviewing a certain location or an area within that location, that area might not be applicable to this kind of thing. So this question just won't show. So it will only show up where I say it's necessary. If I now come back into my app and I refresh, the next time people open up this app, I will come down here and I'll choose Brighton and Hove, and I just need to quickly refresh here. And there we go. So I choose Brighton and Hove, I choose BH1, and start. If I now come in and I go to begin and I go first aid, you'll see our first aid kit's fully stocked. So my question is there. As you notice, we can have tags associated with them as well. Being honest, I forgot to put a tag on there, but you can add tags so that it adds additional categories too, and then filter based on those. So again, all I did was go into a list, create it, and then that's it. This is now captured in the data set that we have, and therefore auditable. We can also turn off questions too. So if a question is no longer valid, you shouldn't delete it because your historical data then has issues. We can just disable it so that our historical analytics will still pull that information in, but it's no longer visible in the form. And so at any point in this, we can come back out We can just choose to save as draft, we can submit, we can do what we want. And if we're on a phone, as I mentioned before, I can come in, I can add tasks, but I can also add photos. So if there's something that is incorrect, so if there's something damaged, I can take a photo of it with my phone. That's stored against that question. And it's just really simple. And it's how people in this day and age expect things to work, because it's how they would use it if they're using the technology in their personal lives. And hopefully you agree, it's pretty straightforward stuff. And then the data that comes out of this, like before, this is a much more complicated database structure model that comes out of this. But we can take that model and we can simplify it. So we can have things, if I give you another example of a Power BI dashboard here, we have nice, rich visual workspaces that show us, perhaps based on location, where we've got failures. So if there's a form that doesn't reach a certain quota, for example, for pass marks, we can see these different maps that show us this information. I can filter down based on Asia Pacific, for example, and then all of my charts will change. My map will jump in and show me that region. All these different things that allow us to be able to select and interact and change and see our data in a really nice format, and something that can be consumed by anybody with the hard work done behind the scenes to make it happen. So those are the two solutions I wanted to show you through to give you an example of how this can work. And it can be of any level of complexity. It can be something that's straightforward for a single purpose. It can be something that is a really large scale complicated process where you maybe want to take it further to build an auditing engine, which is something else we're working on at the moment, where we have this baseline auditing engine and then everything else feeds from that for all the different purposes in an organization, using the same engine behind the scenes, but perhaps different apps, but an app that's built once and then repurposed going forward for further needs. So regardless of how you're doing this and the data you're capturing, whether it's health and safety, fire safety, auditing and equipment inventory, we've done ones that manage through from stores that manage their payment solutions, their payment systems and contactless trackers, and the auditing of those, through to PPE equipment in hospitals, through to health and safety. But before you go upon this journey and before you start working on these, there are things you need to think about and things you need to do. First of all, you ask the question why. Start with why. So why are we doing this? What's the problem that we have? What is the problem we're trying to solve? And what do we need? It could be something like you have a legal obligation. It could be something that you've just seen a business improvement that's needed. But why are we doing this? And what are the personas involved? And this second point is something that's often overlooked, actually, and can come back and bite you if you don't think about this. If you don't accurately capture the personas involved, so the people that use this and the needs that they have as individuals or teams, you can get down the line into design, think you've got this great system, but then someone says, well, hold on, we need to do that. So make sure you do that due diligence to understand why you're doing it, who needs it, who's going to be using it. But then from the solution and project point of view, who has overall responsibility and accountability for this business requirement? And this can be multi-layered. It can be the person that perhaps is the lead on the project that has responsibility for the implementation, but as part of the program or project as a whole, who is the business sponsor? So who do we have in the business that is sponsoring this, that can be the face and the voice of this behind it for us? So we have this rhythm, and we have the rhythm for it to move forward in our business and get its voice and get it out there for our communication channels. And then when we're building this out and we think about what we're going to get from this, so we know why we need it, we know who's going to use it, but what we're going to do with the data, it's the same for everything, because I might write a survey, and it's all well and good me writing a survey to send out to all of you, asking you questions about things about how you're using Microsoft 365, for example, but I need to think about what I'm going to do with that. Why am I asking for this? And what value am I going to get from this data? Who needs this data? And what benefit will it bring us? And then that leads us into the endpoint there. So what are the key benefits this is going to bring that we can showcase to the organization? And it brings all of those together. And these can be everything, such as we're not just meeting an obligation that we have to capture this data. We're using that to make our business better. We're using it to make us more efficient and to really stand out amongst our competitors to show that we're doing this. Additionally, there are internal benefits. The time saving alone on stuff like this can be absolutely massive. taking away paper-based forms. I mean, I've even recently spoken to a company that prints out an Excel file, they fill it out by hand, and then they fax it to a central location. And all that is just clutter, it's waste, and it's time. All those things can be removed. So we have the time benefit, and we have cost savings, and we have increased ROI on what we're doing with Office 365. And these are all things that you really need to take into account before you start really getting the shovels in the ground on these solutions. And this is where we can come in to help. So we work closely in partnership with our customers to really achieve the best value solution for the needs that they have. And we like to think of ourselves as an extension to the companies that we work with. So we get in with the company, we build relationships, and we work with them to achieve what's needed. They're working in partnership. And our staff are very highly skilled, and they can work with you to understand the processes that you have, and then to either take them and mirror them over, or to rebuild them and repurpose them and improve them, make them more efficient, more powerful within Microsoft 365 or beyond. We can integrate with anything because our team have specialist areas in all kinds of elements within the Microsoft stack and beyond. Those can be development areas, but they can be beyond that, and they are beyond that, with areas such as business analysis, architecture, knowledge management. We do a lot of work in migration now, also change management and adoption, and we're very heavy on project management as well. And with all of these, we do receive consistent praise and feedback from our customers. We are very, very conscientious in our approach with customers to work in partnership with them and use our skill sets to the best possible ability to bring the best solution in for our customers. And we do get consistent feedback that reflects our mission, vision, and values and the way we implement them into the delivery that we carry out with customers. So I've reached my 30-minute point. And so I'm just going to now at this point come over and just have a look at the questions and answers to see how we have here. So we've got a few questions here. So we've got one question. Would it be possible to have the license management app deployed for anyone? How easy is it to get up and running? So if you say anyone, I'm going to start with an assumption that you're talking about anyone inside your organization. So absolutely yes, a solution can be deployed and then it can just be shared and sent out. If you're looking at sharing outside of your organization with the public, that too can also be achieved because we can build apps using Power Apps in Microsoft, but if we want to take things further, we can build custom apps as well in a very similar amount of time. And there are sometimes benefits to that. There are cost benefits when it comes to connecting with databases, for example. When it comes to the ease of getting it up and running, if you're looking at that license app, that was very straightforward. It really didn't take much. I did a series of webinars just introducing people to it over a 20-minute session. And I've not had a single person come back to me saying, I don't understand, or how do I do this? It was very, very successful. I think what takes a bit more time, if it is a significant change in your business, is just the time involved with the communications and the planning of that and making sure that people understand why they're doing this and why you're doing it, why it's important to your business. But generally speaking, things like that, it's all part of the course, it's all fine. So I've got a couple more questions that are in here. So one is, we have to create regular reports that are circulated to leadership teams. Can this create static reports and send them automatically so that we don't have to? That's a benefit that I personally know of because I, in my former life, going back about 10 years, used to dread the one day a month where that entire day was spent consolidating data and putting it in a report, not knowing whether or not anybody actually read it. So the answer is yes. In some cases, what I've seen is with those Power BI dashboards, that replaces a presentation. People are just given access to that, so they don't need to wait for a Monday morning report to be sent out. They can go into those dashboards any day of the week and have up-to-date data as and when they need it. But in other cases, like you saw with the email notification I showed you on the license management app, we can use the system to automatically consolidate data, bring it into a nice and pretty format. We can have that sent in an email, or we can have it saved as a PDF and stored in a central location. And then that is emailed out to everybody with a link to the source file or attached, whatever you prefer. So absolutely, it can all be tailored for how you want it to be. And I've got two more questions now. So one is, can we have approval mechanisms against forms so that they're QC'd by management before sign off? Again, yes, this is quite a common requirement actually. So you're filling out quite a lot of data. You want to make sure that it is right. And so in a lot of systems we build, we have that layer before it's published. So I might submit a form, and what it could do is perhaps look up my manager from Active Directory and send it to him or her for approval. So they will review, and we can choose whether or not they're allowed to edit. Commonly what happens is they can't edit. They can look at it and make comments and then reject, or they can approve. Alternatively, we can base the approval mechanisms on the data that's in the form. So it might be that if I've selected value A in field 1 and value C in field 2, there's different layers of approval that's needed. So that's going to fire off 2 new layers of approval to the people that are responsible for those areas. So you can take it as far as you want to create single level simple approval or multi-level approval based upon what you've put in that form. And the final question, a nice quick one, can this work on a Mac? And yes, it can. A lot of our customers have a mixed environment where they're using Windows and Mac, and these solutions work on both of those. Likewise, when we're talking about mobile devices, it works on iOS and Android. I have both. I have an Android phone and an iOS tablet, and I use these apps on these every single day. They work absolutely fine. So that, I believe, brings us to the end of the questions that are on here. So that just leads me now to say thank you very much. Next steps, I hope you found this useful as an introduction to the kind of capabilities that you have and available to you in Microsoft 365, and gives you a bit of food for thought, where hopefully you can take what I've shown you and relate it to something you might have in your organization. And so from here on, I'd like to say thank you very much for your time, and please feel free to get in touch if you have any questions, anything you want to discuss. My email address is on the slide here, as is my phone number. Feel free to call whenever you like. Alternatively, if you saw this post on LinkedIn, feel free to get in touch with me on there, and I'll be happy to chat and see what we can do to help. So once again, thanks very much for your time and sitting through this with me. I wish you all the very best, and I hope to speak to you very soon. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.